This video is not for whales and dolphins, it's for you because you are just like me. Average Art Gamer here, and today we just got the news that we're getting 3 attack characters and a stun character who loves buffing attack characters next patch. Let's go, it's an attack patch. Attack meta is back, but it's not the attack meta that we have been used to. Attack is changing. It does seem like attackers are evolving in a way that means you're going to be probably playing more than one attack character per team. Anyway, I'm going to talk about it. Let's get into it. Let's just jump straight into the business, which is Seed as our first new character in the first half of 2.2, and Seed is a quick swap electric attack DPS. Now, the key terminology that we're going to use here is quick swap, because what Seed wants to do is Seed wants to come on field and benefit from getting the buffs that she can provide for herself. Now, in order for her to provide her buffs for herself, she needs the other attack character that you're going to have on your team, because she will need another attack character in order to function. She's going to provide a buff to them when she casts her EX special, and then when they cast their EX special, that will provide a buff to Seed. And then on top of all of that, when both of those buffs are active at the same time, you get an additional buff on both characters. So that's essentially going to put you in a position where Seed is providing a pretty sizable, probably buff to herself. The numbers are not confirmed at this point, but if I had to guess, I would guess that the buff is going to be smaller than Astra's, but bigger than Lucy's. Let's put it in that bracket for now. The assumption I'm making here is that it can't be as big as a dedicated support character's buff, but it is probably going to be bigger than a dedicated support character who was an A rank from 1.0. And that probably is going to mean that Seed is going to benefit herself, and having another attack character on her team is also going to super benefit her. That means you're then going to be quick swapping between 2 attack characters, and we'll talk about this quite a lot more when we get to Orphie, because it does seem like Seed and Orphie are shaping up to be very, very playable together. But for now, I think that most other attack characters are going to be, sacrificing their field time in order to buff up Seed. And it also does seem that as Seed is going to be our newest electric type DPS, that she's probably going to do big damage. And you can kind of think about this as you think about anomaly characters, because, they typically are going to want another anomaly character to bounce off of. So ideally, what Seed wants is she wants another attack character who's going to take up very little field time, come on, EX special, and then can do stuff from off field, i.e. Orphie. Which we'll get to in a moment, after we talk about the other character coming in the first half of 2.2, which is Trigger. So Trigger is an electric stun agent, and honestly, Trigger's always been pretty solid. I do think that if you have Trigger and you enjoy playing Trigger so far, then that's great. If you maybe didn't pick up her engine, she is one of the characters who does benefit from that engine absolutely massively. Her engine is really good for her. Now, she doesn't need it to be played at a base level, but I do think if you've already picked up Trigger and you're now looking at patch 2.2 as potentially skipping the other characters, this is the reason I bring it up, as yeah, her engine is very good. It's the 25% Death Shred engine. As for Trigger herself, she is an aftershock stun agent, which means that she stuns from off-field in the same way as Jufufu does. You do need to set up her bar a little bit, so you do need to hold your basics, put your basics up, and then you can switch off of Trigger and pretty much forget that she's there, except for the fact that she's going to do some stuns and you're going to occasionally bring her on an EX special. And that's pretty much the way that Trigger works. I do think that Trigger is a very solid agent, but considering the aftershock elements that are going to be in play with Obol Squad, and also taking up very little field time, I do think that Trigger is going to be incredibly useful with Seed and Orphie. I think that that's going to end up being a very good team. In fact, I think that's probably what this patch has been designed around, you potentially pulling if you skipped Trigger last time. And hey, we've talked about this before. They're putting a bunch of characters together. They're going to work really well together to kind of put you into a corner where you feel like you need to pull for more than one. You don't. I'm kind of thinking, looking at what we're seeing here, that this is the opening of the door for attack characters to function a little bit more like anomaly characters, and I do think that, if anything, they might be slightly undertuned. So let's see how we go anyway. But moving on to the second side, after this reminder that you probably aren't subscribed, liking and subscribing is a great way to support creators like me on YouTube. You can just drop me a follow over on Twitch, and you can come join the Discord and tell me how wrong you think I am about all of this stuff down below. Okay, so let's move on and talk about the new character in the second half of 2.2, which is going to be Orphie. So Orphie is an aftershock attack agent, which sounds bizarre, and it's like, well, if you're pulling an attack agent, surely you want them to be on field, right? Unless they do a lot of damage from off field, which potentially Orphie does, and is also going to work incredibly well with Seed. So she does also buff Aftershock, and you can see her doing Aftershocks in this little segment here that I'm showing on screen. She does damage from off-field, and she builds up that bottled heat mechanic, which is just the bar that's under her name. And this is how she unleashes her big laser attack when it goes over that certain point that you can see. And it does seem to have 2 stages to this big laser attack. And this big laser attack, after it's been cast, it will then put the squad into a zeroed in state, which is going to provide a buff that was only really referred to as an attack buff from live stream. So we don't know the full details of that, but it will probably be a pretty reasonable buff. I don't imagine it will be as big as Seed's buff, let's put it that way, but I do think that it will probably be a pretty reasonable buff. There is also a quick assist prompt when the big laser attack is initially cast, and it does seem to go on all of the way until like that second part starts. And potentially with some very skillful switch timing here, you can do like the whole of the held special, and including both halves of the laser attack, while also then quick assisting to another character, but it means that you might have to just hold the button for a bit and then switch off. It seems like that big laser attack has been designed so that you can quick assist straight to someone else, but then I don't know if that means if you're going to end up giving up some of the laser attack and also potentially some of that zeroed in buff. Like, that does remain to be seen. But nonetheless, like, yeah, she's an attack agent who is going to function from off field. She's probably going to be the strongest Aftershock agent that we've seen yet, because every other Aftershock agent has been a stun agent. So I'm actually kind of interested to see how strong they make her. Like I said, I think if anything, they might potentially undertune both Seed and Orphie, because I think that they could be concerned about how much potential there could be behind some of their mechanics. And so if they don't do that and they just go balls to the wall with it and let us have this absolutely bananas character and have her be super strong from off-field, I mean, she cannot possibly be as strong as an on-field attack agent from off-field, right? That would be crazy. Anyway, speaking of on-field attack agents, we have Evelyn also running in the second half. Evelyn is a fire attack agent, and she is a pretty field-hungry agent, I'm not going to lie. She does really enjoy the field time. You can also run her on Hormone Punk and just bring her on for stun windows, but yeah, she's a character who wants to build up her stacks pre-stun, and then when the stun starts, you're going to want to chain attack a whole bunch with Evelyn as much as you can during the stun window. And honestly, I do think that Evelyn is one of the most fun characters to play in ZZZ Zenless. I think she has a really interesting mechanics, and I think that there's also like a really high skill ceiling with Evelyn and a relatively low skill floor. Like at a base level, you can do a few chain attacks in the stun window and you can still clear the content fine. But then at a high level, I've seen some insane stuff go down when people have been playing Evelyn, and I think that that's actually cool as hell. I guess we already know a little bit about the older characters, so I won't spend too much time talking about Evelyn here. But yeah, in terms of like the overall value for this patch, I do think that the Seed and Orphie have probably been designed in a way that they're going to work really well together. It does seem that though that Seed and Orphie were both demoed with Sanby, who will be able to work with both of those characters pretty well, I would imagine, but probably not as well as Seed will work with Orphie and Orphie will work with Seed. But then as a secondary attack character, it does seem like potentially Sanby would be the one that you would want to fill that slot. I do think as well that Evelyn could also fill that role, particularly with a character like Orphie, because if Orphie does just function entirely from an off-field perspective, then having an on-field fire DPS while you also have an off-field fire DPS would be just really cool. For fire-weak enemies, you'd just be doing a buttload of fire damage all of the time. And of course, there was also mention of Sanby going through some kind of training and coming back stronger or something like that. I can't remember exactly what the words were. I'll put them on the screen. But does this mean we're getting Ambi 3 back with a vengeance? Ambi 3 Return of the Burger? I don't think Ambi gets buffed, right? She just came out. It was 1.6. It's not like she's a 1.0 agent, man. Anyway, let's put all that down for a minute. I think it means that she's going to be featured in the patch from a story perspective, and she is also going to be usable with Orphie and Seed. That makes sense. I think overall the value for this patch isn't super high. I do think that in the past with like anomaly patches that we've had, it's been an option to pull like an anomaly character and then you can add them into your existing roster of anomaly characters. I do think that with the advent of attack characters that are going to want to quick swap more, or attack characters that function more from off field, ideally you want to run them together, which means that yeah, if you're able to pull both Seed and Orphie, you probably end up with a really solid team. But if you can't, and remember, this video is not for whales and dolphins, I think it might be a little bit more of a skip of a patch, or maybe considering picking up Trigger, maybe considering picking up potentially one of Orphie and Seed because you want to use them in a particular team that's going to make sense. And obviously we'll get more information as we get closer to the time. Anyway, that's about enough out of me. I'm curious, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, remember to like and subscribe for better average. Pull responsibly. Stay weird. Bye.